Hello and welcome back to another episode of Inspired. We come to you today with an interview with a beautiful soul I met just recently. Her name is Alicia Wood. She is a spiritual guide, mindset coach, intuitive healer, and the host of her own inspired podcast, Fuel Your Fire. I recently had a chat with her on her podcast, and today I am so excited to bring her here to meet all of you. We're going to be talking about many things. I am going to let the magic flow. I know that I am extremely curious about bringing on her and some others of you very soon to talk about your experiences with awakening and what your experience looked like, what your signs and symptoms were, how long it took. This is a really important conversation right now, as so many people are starting to, what I describe as, wake up to a reality that they didn't know that was available to them for most of their lives. As you know, I talk about this time being the time of the Great Awakening, and we are moving into some really crazy, fun, interesting, dynamic, transformative times ahead. And those of us, which I hope to bring here so that you can hear some of their stories, who have been on this path doing this deep work, this deep transformational process over the past 1, 2, 5, 20 years, are really the ones that are here to hold space and help you on your journey. So please welcome Alicia Wood, one of the first that I am going to be bringing on to the Inspired series to talk about her experience in awakening and becoming an intuitive healer, and all of her experiences leading up to creating the beautiful work that she does today. Enjoy this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Inspired, and welcome to my beautiful friend, Alicia. This is Alicia Wood. So excited to have you here.
I'm so excited too. This is going to be a fun chat. I'm excited whenever we get the opportunity to just jam out and have fun. Like, yes, please.
Yes. Okay. I would love for you to tell this audience how we met. You seem to remember the experience in such a beautiful way that I'd like you to explain it.
Yeah. Okay. So I had gone, there's like a backstory to how I end up getting there that it's a fun story. So I'll go into it. We're gonna enjoy the journey together. So we're gonna kind of flash back before you and I met. And I was at a hotel celebrating my birthday. So Jordan and I had gone, my husband and I had gone to this beautiful hotel, and we were having this really nice weekend experience. And when we were leaving, my apologies. I'm just like setting alarms for me to be here on time and then snoozed it. And then here we
Well, at
go.
least you're here. You're here. You made it.
And so we were at this hotel, and then as we're leaving, I get this idea of like, oh, let's go antique shopping. And we have an old home. I love the energy of old things. I love the people, like whoever has had it before, wherever it came from. I love like knowing that there's like the energy of old things. So we're like, okay, let's go antique shopping. And so we look up a couple places that are open, and we're like, all right, we're gonna head there. We go and park in front of one of them. And I look over to the side, and on the building, I see this painting of this big eye. And the center of the eye is yellow. And then I flashed in that moment to an image I had in the shower a couple weeks earlier. So I had been washing my face, and I got soap in my eye, and then I was trying to get the soap out of my eye, and then a vision of an eye within my eye shows up, and I see this, and I'm like, that's interesting. And I stayed there for a while just looking at it, and it was black and white and then turned to yellow. And so when we parked, I was like, there was this moment of an intuitive hit of we've started a journey, essentially. Like there's something going on here.
Mhm.
So we head to one of the antique shops and then head to the other one. And as we're at the other antique shop, first of all, I found a couple things that one was like a intricate cross stitching of like exactly our house. And our house is very specific. And so when I looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh. And I'd been wanting like some sort of drawing or something of our house to hang at the front door. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally like same door color, everything, same color of the house.
Sounds like
Like
your guides
yellow.
are giving you like check, check.
Yeah. Pay attention.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're on yes, you're here. And then I had talked to another psychic a while before, and they had said, like, you'll be somewhere and you'll find something for your kitchen. So you see it all the time that reminds you of your aunt who had passed. And I find this bowl with roses on it. Her name was Rose. This bowl with roses. I always thought it was going to be like stained glass because she had kind of said stained glass, but it was a stained glass bowl, which made it even better because it wasn't specific to what I thought I was looking for. It was like, this is it. And so now it sits on our table and holds different things in it. So again, guides are telling me like, okay, you're on track. Like you're supposed to be here. And then as I'm leaving, I hear my intuition say, ask her, so the person who's checking us out, ask her where to go for lunch. And I was like, okay. And so I ask her, I'm like, all right, do you have any recommendations for somewhere to go for lunch? Because we're in a new town. And she tells me this specific restaurant, and it's called Barnacle Bills. So this was in Cambridge, Ontario. And I've never been to this place, but the name of the place, I was like, I don't know if I want to go here. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because I knew it was like a fish and chips type of place, and I just wasn't feeling fish and chips. And I was like, to my intuition, I was like, do I have to go here? Like, I don't feel like eating this. And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to test you a bit. So I jump into my phone looking up places, and I keep asking, like, can I go here? No. Can I go here? No. Can I go here? No. And I'm like, what about Thai? And this specific Thai restaurant. And they're like, yes. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go to the Thai and we start heading towards the Thai restaurant. As we're heading towards the Thai restaurant, I say to my husband, I have a feeling we just need to be in the area of Barnacle Bills. Like there's some reason why we had to be in that spot. Like we had to go there. It wasn't to do with the food that we were going to eat, but the location we were being driven there. And then as we get closer, I look at the Thai restaurant and then look across the street and Barnacle Bills. And
There
I'm
it
like,
is.
okay. But as we're getting there, there's a crystal shop that we're passing by. And I clock it as we're like walking past, and I'm like, we're going there after. And it wasn't like should we go there now or anything. It was like, we're going there after. It was very clear we're going there after. So again, I'm being guided like we're going there after. And if we had gone there before, you and I wouldn't have met, because spoiler alert, we get into the crystal shop and,
And
there's
magic
a woman.
ensues.
You pardon me?
Magic ensues.
Yes, magic ensues. And I mean, even more when we walk in, I end up recognizing the person who's working in the crystal shop and have a memory that I had thought about her like a couple weeks earlier. Like we worked together like 20 years ago. And
Wow.
I thought of her randomly the other day, and now she's in front of me. Like that's not coincidence. And then because I say like, hey, your name is this, and she's like, I can't remember yours. I was like, yeah, no problem. It's Alicia. So I had to go through all of those steps for my name to come out,
Mhm.
for you to go, my name's Alicia
My
too.
name is Alicia too. Standing about, 2 meter away from you.
Yeah.
Totally
And
circling
then,
the store, talking to somebody else, not paying attention to you, and then I heard you say.
yeah. And then it's like, I asked you, oh, how do you spell it? And you immediately responded with Alicia. Like it was and I said, oh, it's as if you knew how I spelt my name. And you were like, yeah. And then we just jumped in. We had
Oh
so
yeah.
many amazing things to talk about. We definitely feel like we've been led to very similar
Yes.
things in our life. And so yeah, there's no doubt that we were to meet that day, and now we get to see what else gets to come from this relationship as we move forward, which is
As my
incredible.
goosies just kind of go, yes. Okay, so I am going to ask you now what everyone I know is probably thinking as you were going through your story. How do you know what those intuitive hits are? How does it appear to you? How do you trust it? When you got
Yeah.
those drops, what is it for you?
It changes, and the word trust is coming up for me.
Hmm.
And so I like to always talk through my process as I'm going through it too. That was like I saw the word
I was
trust.
gonna
Not
say, please
like
tell me what that means. Did you actually see it? Did you feel it? Yeah.
yeah, so I saw it kind of in bubble letters in front of me, almost like clouds, in
Mm,
not in my physical reality, but in my mind's eye.
got it.
So I trust that when something happens and it feels a little like, oh, like there's just like a little touch to it, I now trust that it's my intuition. This was also a lot of work for me to trust it because there was so much time where I was like, is this my thinking mind or is this my intuitive mind? Like,
I
what?
hear that all the time when I'm training people on how to really tune into that intuition or that connection, I call it. It's, I hear this all the time. Was that just my mind? Did I just make that up? So
And I
what is
think
it
that
that
that's,
made, yeah, what is it that made you trust that? Is it like multiple things happening at one that sort of bring you to that, okay, I'm supposed to be here, the yellow in the eye, the
yeah. I mean, it's been a journey for me. So for me, the way this kind of all started was I started when I really decided, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to understand my intuition. I'm going to trust it. I'm going to be led by it. I know that there's so much more than what I can see. I joined a group where I was working with a shaman, and I was working with an intuitive group of people, and we were bouncing off of each other, and anytime I doubted myself, the shaman would say, "No, that's intuition." And so I was continuously being reaffirmed of like, "That's trust it, trust it, trust it. What if it is? What if it is? What if it is?" And reconditioned my mind, because I think oftentimes the biggest thing that holds us back from activating our intuition or allowing that in is our mind distrusting ourselves.
absolutely 100%. I
Yeah.
always say that I didn't have a group when I was going through my initial stages of awakening, and I didn't have anyone else around me that was intuitive or understood. So I always say if I didn't have my pendulum, which I knew I'm not doing that. So for me, I think that was my proof. And if I didn't
Yeah.
have it, I would. There's no way, because I just knew I'm not doing the thing. I'm not spinning it like this. So
Yeah.
why is this happening? But I find with the people that I'm working with now, and I work with a lot of people on developing their intuition in groups, and it's where the magic happens. It's the
Yeah.
groups because we support each other.
And I think the other thing is that we see things like we are consistently looking for evidence to prove
We are.
whatever, any aspect of things. Like
Mhm.
this person's talking about me. We'll look for evidence to find that person talking about us. Similarly to intuition, it's more helpful. Usually we find evidence of negative things. It's really easy for us to find negative like affirmations to solidify some of those beliefs. So we want to flip it to like finding evidence for what's actually true, what's actually helpful, what's actually there. And so looking for the evidence is going to help it show up more and allow it in more. And by being in a group atmosphere that like what you have, you're seeing somebody else say, I saw this, I felt this, I heard this. I just knew, I got tingles in my body. Like all of these things are ways that I do receive information from my intuition. And so, but when you're in a group atmosphere, you hear somebody say, like, oh, I saw an entity. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then you start to expand your mind into what's possible.
Right.
And the expansion of your mind of what's possible then is allowing so much more in. Because I think it's first like really expanding and going like, what if?
Yeah.
Like, what if I could be psychic?
Which plot twist we all are.
Exactly. But most people are going psychics. They're outside of you.
Right. So another thing I'll ask you, because I find in running these groups like you're talking about, I get a lot of people saying, oh, I'm not as advanced as this person, or I
Mhm.
don't see what that person says or sees, or I don't experience it this way. Did you feel like that when you were in that
Oh,
initial stages? And yeah.
totally. I was like, oh my gosh, these people are so much further
Oh,
ahead than me.
yes.
Yeah. And that just held me back
Yeah.
because I'm then going, they're further ahead, I'm behind, they're further ahead, I'm behind. And then I'm blocking out being able to see what's actually there. Because we do need to work with our human in order to work with our spirit. And so when I stopped doing that and started going, if they can do that, maybe I could too,
Mm,
then things started coming to me in ways where I was seeing it in other people. And now I was open to that being a way that I would receive it.
right. And then did you find, how soon after, how long did you work with the group? And would you say that was the sort of, you know, the tipping point in you starting to do the work yourself? And the work, I mean, let's not call it work. It's actually not work. It's magic. Let's just call it
Yeah.
magic.
Mhm.
What was the tipping point where, um, and for those we can, Cole's notes your story, but you weren't always an intuitive healer.
No, I definitely wasn't.
So maybe share when that tipping point happened as it relates to your journey
I
and this group work you did, and when did it start becoming part of your world?
Yeah, I think that there's been a couple tipping points for me. So there was a tipping point. So I think the first one happened when I went into entrepreneurship. And I
Mm.
think entrepreneurship is often a gateway to spirituality for a lot of people. They're starting to realize like, oh, my world doesn't need to be the way that I've been told the world needs to be. I can do something
Go.
a different way, and it opens that up. And so at that point I had been listening to some spiritual business podcasts, and I had read the book, You Are a Badass at Making Money. And I think that that was the first time, because Jen Sincero in that book is very much talking about universal intelligence and like you're not doing this alone, and stop leaning on yourself to do it all. Like the universe is going to do the heavy lifting, and you have these powers and you have this intuition. And when I read that book, it was such an aha moment for me where I was like mind blown, just like there's so much more. How have I been in the dark?
Mhm.
And I think that that was my first awakening and to what is possible.
What
And so
year
then I
was that?
started,
What year was that?
that was probably
Ish.
2017,
That
2018.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds
Around
about
the same time as you. Yeah. It was yeah, that was the first time there. And then so then I just started consuming everything and starting to get to know mainly my mind, like my human mind first,
right.
in connection with spirit. And that is how I help a lot of people now. Um
Pause there.
yeah.
I just want you to. That is so important.
Yeah.
The human mind connection with your higher self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the key.
Yes, because before that it was I was in the dark because my human mind was in the dark.
And so your human mind, you're almost living in your human mind and in your ego mind. And
Yeah.
it's like you don't know. Here's the piece: you don't know that that higher version of you even exists
Yeah.
because you've never been told.
No, never been told. And are you truly believe that what you engage with, what you experience with your five senses is it?
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's so much.
The other piece to that is, and I don't know if you were the same, but I never had a connection to my body. I never trusted my body. From
Mm,
the time I was 6, 7 years old, I didn't trust my body. I had,
mm.
UTIs, I had migraines as a child. Like I never trusted my body. And then we are we are programmed to believe that you go outside for support. You go to a doctor, So these are all the things just to sort of let people know that, you haven't done anything wrong to not realize that there's more. We've been in a world that has, reinforced this, right?
Yeah, I just got chills when you said that. Like, yes, we've been taught since we were young that this is the way it is. Um, and thr and we've just been conditioned, and like we've our minds have been conditioned. Our human minds have been conditioned in a certain way, whether on purpose or not. It doesn't matter how it happened. We can let go of all of that and not worry about it. That doesn't matter moving forward.
Irrelevant. It really
It's
is.
irrelevant. But what we can do is we can go, oh, there's something different. Like we can start now opening up to the light and going like, oh, whoa, there's a whole like like what we know about our lives is like 0.0000000001% of what there actually is. There's so much more. And
And
I'm
that
not going to claim
too,
to know more.
no,
Like
no.
there's
And
still so much more.
that too, and I think it's important to bring this up, is what can be very overwhelming and jarring and traumatizing, or for those that are going through it. Did you experience when you started to sort of open up? I mean, I identify the stage that you were in. We go through these stages. There's a
Yeah.
euphoria, there's like everyone's love, it's love, everything's just so beautiful stage. And there's also a stage that is a unfortunate necessity, is that shadow stage where you have to actually look at the things maybe you didn't want to look at before. did did you, what was that like for you?
For me, I was able to, and hopefully this helps somebody, is like I was able to disassociate myself from it. Because as soon as I found out that I wasn't like all of the shadows, all of the things that were in my life were not, it's almost like I like released responsibility from it. I was just like, oh, this is just because of the conditioning. Like I didn't take it personally. I was like, oh, I'm behaving this way. And like for instance, the other day, a friend of mine and I are doing this like really fun experiment with the universe right now. Like we're just having fun and setting some intentions and allowing the universe to just show itself to us. Like we're just having a lot of fun with it. But I started to realize that I was going into competition. I was like, oh, asked to like we set the intention to see a certain color car, and then I started like counting them and I was like, I caught myself go, what if she gets more than me? And I was like, oh, interesting. But I didn't beat myself up. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That I thought the competitive part of myself was gone. Okay, well, that's okay. It's interesting. We're just feeling, and then so you can go down the rabbit hole and figure out like what is it that I'm afraid of? Well, I'm
Hmm.
afraid of not being good enough.
Hmm.
I'm afraid of not being the best.
Hmm.
And I'm afraid that I'm not going to do this right. I'm not perfect. It all comes down to like unworthiness. So like the unworthiness is there, and then it's like, oh well, that's like then just giving myself some love.
Yeah.
And I feel like partly I'm doing it right now. It's like,
Yeah, non-judgment, it's okay.
yeah, it's fine. And so I think the non-judgment really helped me. The parts where I did run into things was when I was working on, your thoughts create your reality. If I thought something that wasn't in alignment, I would sometimes beat myself up and go, "Oh, you're thinking the wrong thing. Now it's going to get worse. Now it's not going to happen. Now." And it's like, "Whoa, that's not helping the situation. Just notice it and let it go." So it's been an ongoing journey with it, but the thing that's helped me the most is just to step back and go and to really release the judgment, because it's not.
It's very important for every one of us to do, and you have to really become the observer.
Yeah.
That's the big piece, right? Like we all have to become the non-judgmental observer.
Yeah.
Because it's like we're babies again. It's
Hmm.
like we're little baby humans again, relearning or remembering
Yeah.
all these abilities and ways of perceiving and being that we didn't know before, or we forgot.
Absolutely. And so then in that place, when you are the observer, you're kind of stepping back to the higher self, the soul, like all those levels of it. And it's like, so the person who's responding in this way isn't me.
Mhm.
And so I really was able to detach and start to go, oh, that's not who I am. I
Right.
can see why that would happen. And of course, and so I will say, like, I feel like I'm realizing it right now. Like, I was actually quite kind to myself.
Well, that's good because a lot of us
Yeah.
aren't.
Yeah, a lot of us aren't. So, but then it's like also this is your moment to go find evidence that this is permission. You don't have you are not that is not who you are. You are pure love.
Mhm. Yes, we all are. We are pure love. Yes,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I've worked with a lot of people going through different stages of awakening, and then I always sort of refer back to my own. But mine was very intense, and so I was not kind to myself
Yeah.
through the process. So I always say that it is important for us to allow, for example, those core wound or core emotions of guilt to come up, and women especially. And not to say that men don't experience this, but I mean, guilt. Wow, that is one big one, especially for those that are moms, and it comes with the territory when you're unraveling an old way of being that you've been programmed to believe or understand that that's the way that everything is supposed to be. So mind the guilt when
Yeah.
when you're starting to unpack this, because when you start to wake up, as I'm sure you would agree, you start to disassociate with your life in so many ways. You disassociate with your job, how you spend your time, who you spend your time with. Like it just
Yeah.
it's almost as if you're watching a movie and completely do not relate to it anymore. And it's
Yeah.
that in itself sends you into a tailspin of like, you know, grief, what's like fear, what's next. Did you have much of that in your?
Yeah, I definitely was like, "Oh, I don't this doesn't this doesn't match what my reality is now." And so there was a lot of loss and grief and things that went away. Um and I think I'll go back to that book. Like, it prepared me for a lot of that. I'm
Mm,
so grateful. Like, I think that we went through very different experiences because mine was so slow and gradual. I was doing the work or like the play. Like, I got to like just go dig into this stuff from the very beginning. As soon as I recognized it, I was starting to implement all of the strategies and stuff. So I felt like I had um a hand guiding me always,
mm,
and I'd hired coaches and then the shaman. And so I've always allowed myself to have support.
right.
And that support really allowed me to go through it in a much softer way. Were there
Your
times when I
your
felt
higher
those things?
self.
Hell
I
yeah.
got I got to give your higher self a big thumbs up. Well done.
It's like I mean, I'm not saying that there was never times where I was feeling guilt or shame or any of that, because yeah, I felt guilt yesterday.
Right.
But it's also like I'm not at this point, I'm not beating myself up for it. In the past, I would have tried to change everything to try and make the guilt go away.
Right. 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 Mm.
And so now I've gotten comfortable with it. It's okay that it's there. It's not, I don't need to eradicate all negative feelings. They're
No.
here. That's part of the human experience. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't meant to experience those feelings. They're gifts.
Yeah, they are gifts. They're beautiful gifts, and I'll point out, and they are our higher self, our body's way of telling us that there's more to transmute.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if it's still
Absolutely.
there, we're consciously not aware of it, and that's why these experiences bring it back up again.
Yeah. So it's not that I haven't gone through these things, because I have, and there's been
Yes, you
times that have
have.
been far more challenging.
Right.
It's that I'm always going through them.
Yes, it's an
And
ongoing process.
it will be there, and like we all will, for the rest of our lives, which is like, thank goodness. It'd be so boring without this.
Really would. Just rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns all the time. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind for even a couple of days.
I think we wouldn't mind, but that's how I assume that it is, like, as our soul. And just it is just rainbows and butterflies all the time. And therefore it's like, okay, I'm gonna go down and do the human thing, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
go out and do the human thing, because they want to feel like it's spirit wanting to feel through us and go through this experience. And
Yeah.
so we can either fight it, or we can go with the ride and just enjoy our time on earth. And
Yeah.
again, there are days where I still feel it and I'm in it and I'm like wanting to get my way out of it. But it's gotten easier over time through all of the work that we're not calling
Work.
work.
Okay, so let's talk about the work that I like to call magic instead of work because it's
Yeah. It's transmuting things. It's like it
right,
literally is magic.
which is what we're here to do.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's exactly what we're here to do. And I want to remind anyone who might be listening that you don't even realize you're doing it sometimes. You're at the Costco. You're likely transmuting. If you're following my channel, then you're likely an empath or one of us who are here to do the transmuting, not just within ourselves, but for the planet. And so you're likely just standing at the Costco shining your light, even if it's just that little smile or, that's what we're here to do. This is transmuting. This is what we're here to do. We're here to lighten the energetic density of this planet. That's the work. That's what we're here to do. It's
Yeah.
actually quite simple when you think about
Yeah.
it.
And
Yeah.
when we work on ourselves, we're raising ourselves up to be that light more. And then we're able to transmute the energy in spaces and within other people so much more. And like I can go back to like before I started on this journey, and I was very much in anger,
Mm.
frustration, guilt. I hated like literally everything. I was such an angry person. And that person, I like love her. Like I have a lot of empathy and love for her, but she's not here anymore. But I know that there are a lot of people who are there who
Yeah.
have now this opportunity, and they're probably listening. Some people are probably listening to this going, that seems so far away, but it's not. It's so close for you. It's just a 1% shift. And that's what it's been for me. That's why I think I haven't really noticed it. It's been a 1% shift for me. I haven't had the experience that you've had where it was like 100% shift immediately. And I can only imagine how jarring that is. Everything changes immediately. For me, it was a very slow shift.
Mm.
Um, to points where sometimes I'm just like, I want the shift faster. I want
Right.
the and it's
Most
like,
people are like that. Most people, the people that I'm working with, everyone that basically I work with is on some part of the path.
yeah,
A lot of them have like shut it down.
yeah,
That's another very recognizable storyline.
yeah,
That they remember seeing things when they were a child. They remember understanding the world almost this way,
yeah.
and then shut it down or had an awakening. I have quite a few people that are had awakenings between like 2000 and 2012, and that
Mm,
were going through kind of what we're describing. And then again, I'm sure they just got like sick of it because the rest of the world was not waking up. So they're like, well, clearly this isn't happening. So I'm just going to go back to sleep. you
yeah,
know and so a lot of those people I find have it's tough because they put up this shell, um, because they don't want to sort of get disappointed again or hurt again. And I often think that too. Like I'm glad, although my experience was very traumatic, I'm glad that I was able to be asleep for 43 years of my life,
yeah,
blissfully unaware,
yeah,
because I got to be in that world, you
yeah.
know, and experience it the way that it was without understanding, the darkness, without understanding the manipulation, without, I'm glad I got to just be on that side, because I feel sad for those people that were aware for all of their lives, most of their lives, and just had to kind of shut it down and realize that we were going to be staying in this little third dimensional controlled sort of world, and
Yeah.
maybe never believed that there was going to be a shift. That makes me sad that those
Yeah.
people had to be there. And a lot of them are very like triggered almost by those of us who are, coming out all guns a blaring, not guns, all lights a blaring. Being, what some would call, I guess, new age spirituality. I just call this human evolution.
Yeah.
But they get triggered.
That's fair.
I was doing all this work, oh yeah, I learned Reiki. You know, I've understood this my whole life, so there's
Which is great.
all parts of the journey, people are going to be, triggered.
Oh, people are going to be triggered no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what, in every aspect of everything, people are going to be triggered by absolutely everything. And you're probably recognizing it a lot more in where you are. Um, and you're probably triggering people in a certain way. And so they're definitely, you're seeing it a whole lot more. But yeah, the triggers are there for absolutely everything. And there are also people who are in from that time who are like, thank God.
Thank God,
Thank
it's
God
about
you're finally
time.
waking up. Jeez, I've been here all alone. Let's do this
Yeah.
together. So
I
there's
have a friend from high school, uh, Kathy. When she's watching this, she'll tell you. But I remember reconnecting with her. She lives near where I do in Niagara. And a couple years ago, when I was waking up, and she's been awake to the reality of the world and spirit her whole life. And she was explaining to me just like how hard it was in high school, and in her young, because of her awareness of the spiritual realms and what this world really is. And but what was interesting is when I was telling her my experience, because we reconnected around 2020, I think. I mean, we stayed connected, but we weren't that close in high school. But we reconnected here, and when I was explaining my experience, she couldn't quite understand, because this was like, I think it was 2020. So, and I have been hearing since I woke up about the Great Awakening. Like,
Mhm.
this is what the storyline that spirit, my higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, is telling me I'm stepping into my role for, right? To
Yeah.
support people, the humanity through this great, awakening. And I remember her saying, even though she's been awake all her life, she didn't understand what I was talking about. She it took her about a year to be like, oh, so yeah, because when you're quote unquote awake to the other versions of you, the other realities, dimensions, however you want to call this, you think everybody else is too. Or
Yeah.
you think everybody else is completely closed off. So we're
Yeah.
all perceiving different. And when I was waking up so quickly, I was perceiving many dimensions, many timelines, which I didn't understand at the time.
Yeah.
But I was very clearly guided to this awakening timeline, this
Yeah.
timeline where humanity was going to wake up to this.
Yeah.
And I just remember her, and I just felt so, I said, I am so sorry that you had to do this by yourself.
But did she even know she was doing it by herself then?
Yes,
Oh, she did. Okay.
she did. She told me she found support through, there was like a church group at the time. So like a youth group. So,
Yeah.
but still, I don't think anyone quite understood what she was perceiving at that
Yeah,
time.
that
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So that really, that, when I reconnected with her, and I realized that I was just this blissfully unaware teenager through that time. And so that makes me grateful that I got to experience that, because I think that would have been really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like
And
it's
then,
so much easier now with the way that we can connect about it. It's just
yeah, there's nobody, I don't think there would have been anyone who understood really. And
Yeah.
so what happens is people like that, they shut it down.
Yeah.
It's, you know, they're kind of like, well, why do I have this? Why, why can I perceive a situation differently? Why can I, some people are seers. They see spirit, you know. I don't. That's not one of my clairs. I'm
Yeah.
kind of more like you. I get the cognizant drops.
Yeah.
Uh, let's talk about clairs, shall we?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, is I think this is something too that I people get tripped up on. Because I'll say I feel or I see, but the truth
Yes.
is when I say I see, I don't see. The way that I see is or perceive is I'm very much dominant clairsentient. So I feel.
Okay.
So I can actually feel when I'm doing healing on someone, I can actually feel where the energy blocks are in their body.
Mm,
So
beautiful.
yeah, it's beautiful, but until you figure out how to manage that, then you are a sponge to everybody's energy. So if you are a clairsentient, you absolutely need to figure out how to use that because it
So
is a
I
beautiful gift, but you know,
I perceive clairsentient for me as when I sometimes I walk through spider webs,
mm,
or I have full body tingles, or there might be like something in my body might like I might feel like my shoulder kind of start to throb
yep,
or something.
yes,
That's
that's
how I receive it, but I don't feel it in other people.
okay, interesting. So I would say both of those things are sentient.
Mm,
And I think through my work, I've been allowed myself to open up, and I only do it. I'm very careful about it. I only do it. That's why a lot of my sessions are virtual
yeah.
because being in a physical presence with someone is that much more intense.
Yeah.
Um, so people that do have this, they have to learn to protect their energy, and they have to learn to call back their energy and cut energetic cords. So those spider webs you walk through, those are part of protecting your energy. And then what I hear from you is you have quite a few of the claircognizance, so the drops, which I also
Yeah.
have. So how does that appear for you?
Sometimes it appears as if it's a thought, like as if I came up with an idea, but I didn't generate the idea. So this is where I started to really realize the differences. Um, we can go searching for ideas like, okay, I'm going to come up with a plan for how to create my next podcast episode, and I'm going to write down all of the things that are going to happen, and I can create it. So I'm in that creation mode. Or I can, or another completely separate, but with the podcast idea is like, I'm going to redo the opening of my podcast. And then I'm asking myself, i.e., my higher self, i.e., spirit, i.e., whoever, guides, teachers, etc. What's my new podcast opening? And then I take a nap and I wake up and it's there. I
Mm,
didn't go searching for it, it dropped
right,
in.
right.
And so that's a very obvious one where I can go, oh, that wasn't me. But it happens all the time. And now I'm realizing that it's usually things are coming through where I'm not generating it. And then I'm just saying it.
Mm,
And that happens a lot in my session. So that's more, yeah, just dropping in. I think that's the best way I can describe it.
yeah.
You might have a different way.
Well, I totally agree. When I recently did a session, it's been an evolving group session, so I'm comfortable. The people kind of keep coming back, so
Yeah.
there were 10 of them, and I got the drop that. And usually I take them through a guided meditation. I give them sort of an energy update, but this time I got a drop that I was to deliver each one of them a message in healing. And I was like, well, that sounds like a lot. I was sort of getting overwhelmed. And then it kind of dropped in, well, it's not you, Alicia.
Yeah.
Great. I just have to show up.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then just everyone came to the center, and the message came, and I got out of the way.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
have to do this. I will just be the channel. And it really helped because the session was usually 2 hours, and I'm exhausted after. This ended up going 3 hours, and I was not exhausted at all.
Yeah. And that's how I show up to all of my group calls and coaching and everything. I step out of the way. I'm like, I'm just here to to ask, like, oftentimes you'll see me if if you're working with me one-on-one, especially, or in a group, I will just be like, and like, so I'm looking up towards the sky, like, so what's my question? And then I'll say to the group, like, I'll just be like, sorry, I'm looking for my question. But and I let it be. And the old version of me would have been like, you need to have your next question. You need to be
Right.
prepared, whatever. And it's like, no, I'm I'm not the one who's creating the questions. I'm being given the questions and then I'm asking them because that's the question asked in that way that's going to help them
Right.
have transformation. So yes, always just like let it come. Yeah, I'm always letting it come through.
And I guess anybody witnessing this conversation right now, whenever time you're listening or watching this, we're actually doing that right now. None of this was
Yeah.
planned.
Nope.
We set the intention that we would have, I mean, we could talk for hours, but
Yeah.
we set the intention that whatever needed to come through for those of you who are listening is going to come through. And I keep getting the drops of what to ask and what to.
Yeah. The clairs, like, I was like, as soon as you said it, I was like, I don't even know what the clairs are. Like, I don't know if you were like, list the clairs for me and tell me, I'd be like, I can't list them. Like, I don't know. I don't know that.
And not everybody needs to know it.
Yeah.
Some people, though, really do like it's interesting. Some people really like almost the theory of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It helps get you into it.
well, it also helps validate.
Yeah.
If there's like a, scientific or, recognizable understanding of a practice, for example, Reiki. So I myself have never learned Reiki. My guides told me not to, that I didn't need it. So I simply just understand Reiki as energy healing. But
Yeah.
I understand what energy healing is. So
Yes.
the practice of teaching or learning Reiki is, another human telling, sharing a one way of doing energy healing.
Yeah.
So now I understand why my guides initially said, because I was asking, well, what do I need to learn? There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so like a Reiki, for example, and people say, oh, I have to be certified as I'm not certified, but I am a very good energy healer. I mean, so it's this, but it helps people. The theory of these modalities, let's say,
Yeah.
really does help people's human brain go, okay, and that's
Yes.
also why I call myself a medium.
Mm,
I'm way beyond that,
yeah.
but, and, that's not what I do every day. I would consider myself more of a, quantum energy healer, but I know
Yeah.
I can't say that right now because I need to enable those who are receiving or want or need me to be able to find me. And so
Yeah.
they're going to be looking for certain things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So how did you evolve then? Those of you that don't know, Alicia, you just a sort of a Coles Notes summary of you were working for a corporation, correct?
Yeah, I used to work in film and television. So I worked for a company for 12-ish years. And I remember thinking, like, I'll never do anything else. I'll be like, I think I saw a book that was like, you end up having like most people have 4 different careers in their life. And I was like, I will never, I'm going to be here forever. Um, but it's a very stressful industry and it will like chew you up and spit you out. Like it's not the necessarily the most relaxed or most loving all the time.
Mm.
Not to put a blanket statement on the industry, it can be challenging. And so I moved from there to entrepreneurship when I had like a health awakening, which was part. I think that was even before the first like. Oh wait, there was been multiple awakenings where it was like, okay, take care
Actually,
of your
yeah,
health.
I'm going to validate that most people, when they're waking up, it begins with a health
Yes.
awakening. This is like a very consistent, people talk about a near death or some other health. That's typically where it starts. So,
Yeah. And when you have success with your health journey, typically it's also mindset related because you're changing who you are and then you're starting to see the world differently. And then naturally, our guides and our teachers put things on our path And so when we start going down that path, they're like, ooh, this and this and this guide and this book and this information and this person saying this thing that triggers this thing for you. And so that was kind of the first step. And then when I started the business, the evolution continued. When I first started my health journey, I jumped into fitness, which was where the business had started. And I was teaching fitness classes and I was motivating people. And I was in this, like, I had social anxiety, got through that, was teaching classes. The When I was doing that though, I was so present. And I remember being in, like, I remember reflecting on class. I was like, what do I love about this? And I'm like, oh, I am nowhere else but in the room with these people.
Mm.
I wasn't anywhere. I wasn't thinking about what was coming up in my day. I wasn't thinking about what had happened prior. I was very present. It was my form of meditation to be in the room, looking at their bodies, seeing alignment, like seeing them. So this is interesting. When I was teaching classes, I was teaching classes intuitively. I was seeing their muscles, like I was seeing the musculoskeleton of the body as I was teaching the classes, to go, oh, do this tiny tweak and do it this way. So then it would actually engage certain muscle groups, all that stuff. It was all an evolution of that. So then I get into fitness and then working in that world, pandemic hits. It was a very in-person business. And then it started to really shift to the mindset aspect of what I was already doing and started pulling in the mindset work and helping people with that, especially during the pandemic, 2020, focusing on that world. And then it just really continued. It wasn't just the mind, it was now worth focusing on the spirit. And then I dove full into spirit. And I feel like I've now come back into, they go hand in hand. We need to think about the human in relation to the spirit or the soul, or however we want to look at it, the
And
universe,
the
all the
body
things. And the body. Yeah,
actually just pulled you right around full circle,
absolutely.
which
Absolutely.
is what this is. We need to work not just, we have to work on the physical body, the emotional body, the energetic body, and the spiritual body. And this has brought you completely right around to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
So,
definitely here's another sort of anchor point, the 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 result of the 2020 era
mhm,
being something, and I was told this in 2018, that there would be a major, um, economic. They didn't. My guide didn't tell me it was going to be what it was, but they said it was going to be a major shift in the world, and it would be a year or two, um, and it would impact, economically. I mean, I was very prepared for my guides. I
yeah.
literally sold my house and moved in here, on March 1st, 2020, like
Oh,
literally
wild.
20 days before, which enabled me to have some money because everything went right. So all of these things, if you look back on certain times of your life, you can see where things were happening that seemed very chaotic and scary, and you were fighting tooth and nail to not have happen in your life, end up resulting in exactly where you were meant to be. And I'm assuming that that time was that for you.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times like that. A lot of times where even us moving to this house, which happened during, I think we bought the house in like 2021 and then moved in 2020, early 2022. Um, we were thinking about leaving and we're
Leaving
like, okay, we're
downtown Toronto, right?
leaving downtown Toronto. Yeah. And we had like the idea, we're like, maybe, and we go away on weekends and we'd like rent Airbnbs and be like, what would it be like to live here? And we started getting ourselves into the energy of something else. And then we had somebody move in above us who was really loving his bass. And
Thanks
he
for explaining it.
he just liked to have fun, you know? And so he just had like a lot of people over a lot. This was when you couldn't go out anywhere, and he would just have people over and be blasting music. And it was painful. Like we physically feel like the bass. It was right above our bedroom. And we were like, we have to go. And it thankfully, like, it was such a challenging time of like frustration where we're in it. But when we were in it, we're so frustrated. But then when we find the new place and then leave, we're like, thank goodness he moved in. That was like, we were
Good. It wouldn't
in,
have pushed you.
it
Yeah.
wouldn't have pushed us out the door. And that had happened to me in my last place, or not my last place. One of the places I'd lived, every place I'd lived, I've been kicked out the door.
Yeah.
It's gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't bear it and I'll leave. Um, I guess that's not like I could make decisions faster, but sometimes it's it's just kind of nice to have it very obvious. Go, like, go. This is not where you're supposed to be anymore. And typically my guides make it unbearable for me when I'm supposed to leave.
Right. Well, typically they'll do that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is sort of another key learning. If you get to, I call it the chaos energy.
Yeah.
So when the chaos energy starts to um, really take shape, and you just like, it's like nothing's working. Just
Yeah.
this thing that you basically have to sort of tune in or ask why is this happening, um, and so we're going to start to wrap things up here, but I want to know where you are now and
Yeah.
how it is you're supporting, who you're supporting. Yeah, you've had quite a journey
Yeah.
getting here, but yeah, where are you now? How are you helping people? What are you doing in the world?
So now I'm helping people who would say that they're on a spiritual journey. So they're on a spiritual journey and they've had some sort of awakening. They've considered themselves spiritual. They want to know more. They know that there is more and they're eager to seek. And I think that that's very similar to me. It's like, I love this stuff. I love studying it. I love diving into it. I love checking in. I love doing the work. Like, all of it is so fun to me. And so the people that I work with typically are like, let's dive in, let's figure out what's going on. Let's make this an experiment. Let's just be playful with it. So I help people through a few different ways. I'm doing one-on-one, whether it's, usually all my things are mixing together. So the coaching aspect of things, the intuitive healing, the intuitive guidance or spiritual guidance to help people down that path. So whether they're going through a transition of like, I'm leaving my corporate job and I'm heading into entrepreneurship, there's going to be some coaching, but also intuitive guidance in there for them to check in with themselves and learn more about themselves. And then I also have a book club, so a spiritual book club.
Hmm,
The new one is starting in May, which is exciting. And in that book club, we're going to be studying the universal laws. So, starting to really
that's
understand the law of
fun.
attraction and the law of vibration, the law of reciprocity, like all of these laws, we're starting to dive into them and go, let's uncover what's in here and play with it and start to integrate it into our lives, which is a lot of fun. And then I also have an intuitive group. So right now we are just playing with our intuition. And
That's
that's
fun.
just it. It's just
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, I'm doing some similar work right now. Call it the
Yeah.
accelerate. I thought it was going to be one thing when Spirit told me to lead it, and it's completely turned into, you know, it's magical. It's,
Yeah.
it's really, it's just, yeah, an open playground to allow all of us to sort of develop further. It's really cool.
And I
So
think that that's the key.
one final question I have for you.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are in, let's call it the corporate world, and sort of awakening to allowing these other ways of helping people evolve or transform the way that you've described that you have, and the way that you support people, and where do you think we are? How far away are we from this being sort of recognized as not woo woo?
Yeah. um, it's so interesting because my perception of the world is so because I'm surrounded by these people all the time. I don't know that I have like an actual representation of where we are. I think that it's definitely in the corporate world, it's starting to shift. There's a lot of coaching being brought into the corporate world, and coaching is really at the root level healing. And so a lot of this stuff is starting to move, and it looks, and I think that that is kind of the gateway in, is this personal professional development.
Yeah.
Personal professional development has now incorporated a lot of spiritual elements to it, and it's starting to lean on that, the unseen world. And so it's making its way. Whether or not the corporate world wants to talk about it that much
I
is a
don't
little
think that we're
different.
there yet. No, no.
But I think that if you got into a conversation with somebody around the water cooler and you started to bring up some of these concepts, they would
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
"You're into this too?" And I just got shivers. It's like the more we kind of drop words and hints about things, like I think of your friend Kathy, and I'm like, I bet you she was like dropping words and hints along the way to different people. And there would be some people who would jump and go, "Oh,
Right.
you're paying attention to this too." So almost if you are in the corporate world listening to this, start asking people more questions and be open to, maybe they are. And the more that we think that people are, like, as more as a collective consciousness, we're like, it's shifting, it's happening, the more it's shifting and it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And so if you could give any advice to anyone, let's say those people that are in the shifting stage, the stages
Yeah.
that you and I were in, 27, 2018, or those, a lot of people started their shift in 2020.
Yeah.
So a lot of people became aware of, and it's good for us to also sort of point out that awake doesn't mean just woke. Actually doesn't. That's not what I refer to awaken, and I'm sure, I know you don't,
No, I
but
don't even know what woke actually means.
I believe that the whole woke conversation is about, being awake to the narrative of the of culture, narrative of media, of government, of all those things, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, so it is nothing to do with what we're talking about. Not nothing to do. It is part of it, because being awake to the reality of our world, which is different than we've been told, is part of it. And it's also part of the grief process that you ultimately, I don't believe any of us are going to get a hall pass to that. There's
Yeah,
going to be a grief process, whether it's letting go of the life you thought you wanted, or the people that you thought were going to be in it, or the job or career you thought you were going to be in, there will ultimately be grief.
totally.
So, having said that, what would you say to those that are now either awakening, reawakening? How would you suggest, what's your biggest piece of advice to those people?
Have fun.
I love that.
Just have fun with this. This is all, like, if you just look at life as a giant game, and
Mm,
we can release how much weight or heaviness that the grief even has to have. It's just like, just have fun with it. Great. There's grief. Yes. But we get to experience it. It's like if you shifted your language to, I get to do this in anything, not I have to, not I want to, not whatever, but like I get to, because I am having this human experience right now, which is pretty phenomenal.
mhm.
That just have fun. Allow yourself to have fun. Let yourself have fun. You get to go through this. You get to experience yourself. You get to have these revelations. And this gets to be fun. You can choose for, again, human mind, you're going to get what you decide you're going to get. And if you think that this is going to be hard, it's going to be hard. If you think that this is going to be fun and light, it's going to be fun and light.
Absolutely.
So you get to choose your path. Which one do you want to go down? Yes, there will be challenging times in the fun. I'm not saying that it's all rainbows and sunshine. It's not. But if you can focus on how this isn't actually, that all of this, every aspect of it is an opportunity, it's so much lighter than if you're down the frustration, challenging, hard path. That one's way more challenging.
That is a brilliant answer. Thank you. So, where can everybody find you, Alicia?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram, Alicia, ALICIA .rose.wood. Or you can find my podcast, the Fuel Your Fire podcast with Alicia Wood. I'm on all the platforms. You can just Google that.
I'll put
And
the links in the bios in
oh,
the
beautiful.
show notes too. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I'm on TikTok as well under alicia.rose.wood.
Okay, Alicia, thank you so much. I know this isn't going to be the last conversation that we have
No, let's have
here
many
on this
more. Yeah.
platform and any other ones. Yes. So thank you for bringing your magic, your wisdom, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me. Bye, Alicia.
Bye for now.